What if I told you? There's a place on Earth that looks more alien than earthly. A place where trees bleed crimson resin, where beaches stretch untouched by mass tourism, and where evolution took a completely different path. For millions of years, welcome to Socotra Island. Yemen's hidden paradise, and one of the most isolated landmasses on our planet. I'm here to take you on a journey to what scientists call the Galápagos of the Indian Ocean. A place so unique, so otherworldly, that it challenges everything we think we know about life on Earth. Picture this: ancient trees that look like giant umbrellas dotting a lunar landscape, their trunks bleeding deep red resin when cut. Imagine massive bottle-shaped plants storing water in their bulbous bodies, waiting years between rainfalls. Envision pristine white sand beaches, where your footprints might be the only human marks for miles. This is Socotra Island, a living laboratory of evolution, a UNESCO World Heritage site, and quite possibly the most extraordinary place you've never heard of. To understand why Socotra is so extraordinary, we need to travel back 6 million years. That's when this 400 square mile island broke away from the Arabian Peninsula and began drifting into the Arabian Sea, 250 miles off the coast of what is now Yemen. This separation was evolutionary gold. Cut off from the mainland, life on Socotra began evolving in complete isolation. No genetic exchange with continental species. No new arrivals to compete with. Just pure, uninterrupted evolution. Crafting species found nowhere else on our planet. The result? Of the 825 plant species that call Socotra home, over 1/3, that's more than 270 species, exist nowhere else on Earth. To put that in perspective, that's a higher level of endemism than the famous Galápagos Islands. We're talking about a botanical treasure trove. That makes even Darwin's playground look ordinary. The island's isolation wasn't just geographical. It was cultural too. The indigenous Socotri people developed their own language, Socotri, which has no written form, and is spoken by fewer than 100,000 people worldwide. Pitch -1. For centuries, they lived as guardians of this unique ecosystem, their traditional practices helping preserve what makes Socotra so special. In 2008, UNESCO finally gave Socotra the recognition it deserved, declaring it a World Heritage Site. The citation read like something from a science fiction novel: outstanding universal value for its exceptional level of biodiversity and endemism. In scientific terms, Socotra represents what happens when evolution gets creative in isolation. If Socotra has an icon, it's the dragon's blood tree, Dracaena cinnabari. These aren't your typical trees. Picture a massive umbrella made of densely packed branches, rising 20 to 30 feet into the air, with a trunk that can live for hundreds of years. The name comes from their most famous feature. When you cut the bark, deep crimson resin bleeds out like blood from a wound. This isn't just a botanical curiosity. This red resin has been treasured by civilizations for millennia. Ancient Romans paid more for dragon's blood than they did for gold. Medieval alchemists believed it held magical properties. Violin makers still use it today to create the perfect varnish for their instruments. But these trees are far more than just sources of valuable resin. They're evolutionary masterpieces, perfectly adapted to one of the harshest environments on Earth. That distinctive umbrella shape isn't just beautiful. It's survival engineering. The dense canopy acts like a natural water collector, capturing precious moisture from the rare fog that rolls across the plateau, and funneling it down to the roots, on the Dixum Plateau. Where the largest concentration of these trees grows, you'll find yourself in what feels like an alien forest. Hundreds of dragon's blood trees dot the landscape like ancient sentinels, their dark silhouettes against the stark limestone creating a scene that belongs more on another planet than on Earth. These trees grow incredibly slowly. It can take decades for a young tree to develop that characteristic umbrella shape. Some of the larger specimens you see today were already ancient when the first Portuguese explorers reached the island in the 16th century. They've watched civilizations rise and fall, witnessed the passage of countless monsoon seasons, and continue to thrive in conditions that would kill most plants within weeks. The dragon's blood trees are just the beginning of Socotra's botanical strangeness. Meet the desert rose, scientifically known as Adenium obesum socotranum. These aren't flowers, they're trees. But trees like no others you've ever seen. Imagine a plant that looks like someone inflated a tree trunk into a massive bulbous bottle. These bottle trees, as they're commonly called, can grow trunks 6 feet in diameter, storing hundreds of gallons of water in their swollen bases. They're living water towers, capable of surviving for months or even years without a single drop of rain. But here's where they get truly spectacular. When the rains finally arrive, these seemingly dead bulbous trunks suddenly explode into life. Bright pink and white flowers bloom directly from the trunk, creating one of nature's most surreal displays. A landscape that looked like it belonged on Mars suddenly transforms into an alien garden. Then there's the cucumber tree. Dendrocytios socotranus, the only tree in the entire cucumber family. Picture a cucumber plant that decided to become a tree, reaching heights of 20 feet with a trunk thick as a telephone pole. Its relatives are sprawling vines that grow in your garden. This Socotri species decided to reach for the sky instead. The Socotran frankincense tree represents another evolutionary marvel. While frankincense trees grow throughout the Arabian Peninsula, Socotra's version, Boswellia elongata, has adapted to the island's unique conditions. The resin from these trees was once more valuable than gold, traded along ancient spice routes, and burned in temples from Rome to Jerusalem. Perhaps most bizarre of all is Dorstenia gigas, which looks like a cross between a tree and a piece of abstract sculpture. Its thick, stubby trunk branches into multiple finger-like projections, each topped with small leaves. Local Socotris have used its milky sap for traditional medicine for generations. Every plant here tells a story of adaptation, survival, and evolutionary creativity unconstrained by continental competition. While Socotra's interior amazes with its botanical aliens, the coastline offers a completely different kind of magic. Imagine 300 miles of coastline where pristine beaches stretch as far as the eye can see, where your footprints in the sand might be the only human marks for miles. Kalancia Beach on the island's northwest coast epitomizes this untouched paradise. White sand so fine it squeaks beneath your feet extends for miles, backed by sand dunes that roll like frozen waves toward the interior. The water here is a shade of turquoise that seems too perfect to be real. So clear you can see tropical fish swimming 20 feet down. But Socotra's marine environment is just as unique as its terrestrial life. The coral reefs surrounding the island host species found nowhere else in the Indian Ocean. The isolation that created the island's unique plant life also allowed marine species to evolve in their own distinctive ways. The waters around Socotra serve as a crucial migration highway for marine life, traveling between the Red Sea, the Persian Gulf, and the wider Indian Ocean. Humpback whales pass through these waters on their annual migrations, while resident populations of dolphins patrol the coastlines. Traditional Socotri fishermen have worked these waters for over 2,000 years, using sustainable methods passed down through generations. Their traditional houris, small fiberglass boats that replaced ancient wooden vessels, dot the harbors. These fishermen understand the rhythms of the sea, the seasonal movements of fish, and the delicate balance that keeps these waters productive. The fishing practices here represent a masterclass in sustainability. The Socotri people take only what they need, using methods that don't damage the coral reefs or disrupt breeding cycles. It's a relationship with the sea that industrial fishing fleets could learn from, one that has kept these waters pristine while providing for local communities for millennia. At places like Arhir Beach on the island's eastern tip, massive sand dunes meet the sea in a landscape that looks more like the Sahara than a tropical island. Here, the contrast between the arid interior and the lush marine environment creates some of the most dramatic scenery you'll find anywhere on Earth. Socotra's isolation didn't just create unique plants. It crafted an entire ecosystem of endemic animals, particularly birds that evolved in ways found nowhere else on Earth. The Socotra sunbird, with its brilliant metallic plumage, represents one of the island's most spectacular endemic species. The males flash iridescent blues and greens as they dart between the endemic plants, their evolution closely tied to the unique flowering cycles of Socotra's botanical aliens. Then there's the Socotra starling, a bird that exists nowhere else on the planet. These intelligent social birds have adapted to the island's harsh conditions, nesting in the rocky outcrops and feeding on the fruits of endemic plants. Their calls echo across the plateaus, a sound that hasn't changed in thousands of years. The Socotra sparrow might look ordinary, but it represents something extraordinary. Proof of how even the most common-seeming species can evolve into something unique, given enough isolation and time. These sparrows have developed distinct behavioral patterns and slight physical differences that mark them as distinctly Socotri. But it's not just the endemic species that make Socotra special for birders. The island sits at the crossroads of three major flyways, making it a crucial stopover for migrating species. Egyptian vultures, which are critically endangered elsewhere, maintain healthy populations here. Socotra cormorants, despite their name, are actually more common in the Persian Gulf. But they find refuge on Socotra's cliffs. During migration seasons, the island becomes a temporary home to species from Europe, Asia, and Africa. Warblers, shrikes, and dozens of other species use Socotra as a refueling stop on their epic journeys across the Arabian Sea. The island's reptile life is equally unique. Endemic species of lizards scurry across the rocks, having evolved without significant predator pressure. They've grown bold, often approaching humans with curiosity rather than fear. A behavior that speaks to Socotra's relative lack of disturbance by the outside world. For over 2 millennia, the Socotri people have been the guardians of this unique ecosystem. Their story is as remarkable as the biodiversity they've protected. The Socotri language, Socotri, belongs to the South Arabian language family, and has no written form. It's passed down entirely through oral tradition. Stories, songs, and knowledge flowing from grandparents to grandchildren, like an unbroken river of cultural memory. Linguists consider it one of the most archaic languages still spoken, offering insights into how languages evolved in the Arabian Peninsula thousands of years ago. Traditional Socotri society developed sustainable practices that modern conservation biologists recognize as remarkably sophisticated. They rotated grazing areas to prevent overuse, harvested frankincense resin using methods that didn't damage the trees, and maintained fishing practices that preserved marine ecosystems. Their traditional architecture reflects perfect adaptation to the island's climate. Stone houses with thick walls stay cool during scorching summers, and warm during the cooler winter months. The designs haven't changed significantly in centuries because they work. A testament to generations of accumulated wisdom about living in harmony with this unique environment. Socotri women have traditionally played crucial roles as keepers of botanical knowledge. They know which plants provide medicine, which ones are edible during droughts, and how to process various endemic species for different uses. This knowledge represents an irreplaceable library of information about sustainable interaction with endemic ecosystems. The island's traditional economy centered around frankincense, dragon's blood resin, and sustainable fishing. All practices that worked with, rather than against, the natural environment. Even today, many Socotris maintain these traditional livelihoods, alongside newer opportunities in ecotourism and conservation work. Visiting Socotra isn't like booking a typical tropical vacation. This remoteness that preserved the island's unique character also makes it one of the world's most challenging destinations to reach. Access is primarily through weekly flights from Cairo, or, when political conditions permit, from mainland Yemen. The island receives fewer than 5,000 visitors annually. Compare that to the millions who visit the Galápagos or other famous natural destinations. This limited access is both a challenge and a blessing. It means that when you do reach Socotra, you're genuinely experiencing one of Earth's last untouched paradises. You might spend an entire day hiking among dragon's blood trees, without encountering another tourist. You might have entire beaches to yourself, watching the sun set over the Arabian Sea, with only the sound of waves for company. Accommodation on the island ranges from simple guest houses to eco-camps that let you sleep under some of the most spectacular night skies on Earth. With virtually no light pollution, Socotra offers stargazing opportunities that have become rare in our interconnected world. The island's tourism model focuses on sustainability and community benefit. Local guides, many from fishing families, have become expert naturalists, their traditional knowledge of the island's rhythms proving invaluable for understanding this unique ecosystem. Hiring local guides doesn't just enhance your experience, it directly supports the communities that have protected this natural heritage for generations. Climate change and increasing global connectivity pose new challenges for Socotra. Rising sea levels threaten coastal communities, while changing weather patterns could affect the delicate balance that allows the island's endemic species to survive. At the same time, Socotra represents hope. Proof that isolation, traditional stewardship and careful management can preserve natural wonders even in our rapidly changing world. Socotra Island stands as one of our planet's most extraordinary achievements. A living laboratory where evolution conducted experiments in isolation for millions of years. It's a place where trees bleed red resin and look like umbrellas. Where bottle-shaped plants store water for years. Where pristine beaches stretch untouched by mass tourism. But more than just a collection of unique species. Socotra represents something profound about the relationship between humans and nature. For over 2,000 years, the Socotri people have shown that it's possible to live within an ecosystem without destroying it. To benefit from natural resources without depleting them. To be guardians rather than conquerors. In our age of environmental crisis and mass extinction, Socotra offers both inspiration and hope. It proves that with isolation, traditional wisdom and careful stewardship, the natural world can maintain its capacity to amaze, inspire, and evolve in ways we never imagined possible. Socotra Island isn't just a travel destination. It's a journey to the edge of biological possibility, a reminder that our planet still holds secrets waiting to be discovered, and wonders that can leave us speechless with awe. The dragon's blood trees that gave us our opening image stand as silent witnesses to this truth, ancient, alien, and achingly beautiful, bleeding their crimson resin into a world that still, despite everything, holds magic.